2017 meeting of the Hollister City Council. Councilmember Luna, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Clerk Graves, can we please have the roll call?
Yes, sir. Mayor Velasquez. Mayor Pro Tem Clower.
Here.
City Council Member Friend.
Present.
City Council Member Luna.
Present.
City Manager Avera.
Present.
City Attorney Sullivan.
Here.
Chief of Police Westrick.
Here.
And City Clerk Graves here.
And the verification of agenda posting?
The agenda for the City Council of this... Sorry, there's a typo. The agenda for the City Council meeting of the City of Hollister of March 20th, 2017 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on March 15th, 2017 at 1:15 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. City Attorney Sullivan, anything to report from closed session?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Three items were discussed. Ongoing litigation we're having with the Don Chapin Company. The material that we had expected that they requested, we're going to request in writing. They haven't. So I gave a report, and we are just going to provide that to them without their... The tax sharing agreement litigation with the county, that matter was continued because we got the proposal from the county this afternoon. And then it was discussed the procedure we will be following to public employee appointment, which is the city council person for District 3. The applications will be accepted tomorrow through April 7th,
District
2017.
District 4.
District 4, I'm sorry. What did I say?
3.
3. Guess I'm looking at my notes. There will be a letter with a resume, a letter asking the applicant, why they believe they should be appointed, and that we anticipate, depending on the number of applicants, having a meeting on the 17th of April to be determined, but right now generally 4 o'clock. The position will be filled until the general election in 2018, whereupon a 2-year term will be voted on at that time, so that the districts are maintained, that we have 2 at a time every 4 years.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on.
Excuse me, Mr. City Attorney, we were also going to ask, I believe, for applications to be electronic.
I did say by email.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Perfect. Okay, moving on to consent. Councilmember Luna, are there any items you'd like to pull from consent?
Yes, I like to pull the minutes, number 1.
Okay.
And I just wanted some clarification on number 6.
Okay, and Councilmember Friend?
7,
8 and 9? Okay, so we have items being pulled as 1, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
I move that we approve the consent calendar as amended.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to item number 1.
The minutes of the March 6th reflect that I was present and I was not.
I'll take care of it. Thank you.
That was it.
Are there any speakers on this item?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 6.
Good evening. Can I answer any questions for you?
Yeah. Danny, can you just elaborate a little bit on the supplemental appropriation of the water fund? for this expansion? It's a CIP, I understand.
Yes, it is. It's a previous CIP that has been approved by the council back, I believe, in the 14-15 budget. It was supposed to be carried over, however, it was mixed, and now it is being brought back. The work is an integral part to things that are going on with the crosstown pipeline and other water quality objectives that the city is trying to achieve.
So is a CIP item from prior years?
Yes, and it will probably carry on 2 years after it's phase
And just for
4.
information for the public, the amount?
$375 this.
$375,000?
Yes, $375,000.
That was budgeted for under CIP?
No, and part of it, excuse me, Danny, is also this, part of the crosstown pipeline or connection to well number 4 to provide that higher quality water to those residents in that area and to address the chromium-6 issue. What Danny's referring to also in the CIP program is there's a connection to the storm drain system.
Yes.
For first flush and some of the other stuff that may occur at the well. So it's kind of killing two birds with one stone, so to speak, is we have the additional money to go ahead and make that connection at well number 4, and at the same time we're going to complete a CIP project that we had had approved by the council a couple years ago. So the total project cost is about an additional $375,000. That's on top of a $2 million project budget that you folks had already, or the council had already adopted as a part of a previous action. Again, and this is to make sure that we can tie in both well number 5 and well number 4 to the crosstown pipeline, first and foremost to deliver a higher quality water to the residents of the city of Hollister, and also take care of our chromium-6 issues well in advance of the state regulated or the state mandate. So
Yeah, and my concern was to make sure that the $375,000 was going to be the sufficient amount so that you don't have to come back and request additional funds.
Yeah.
So you're sure that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's an estimate, yes.
Yeah. Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Councilmember Friend?
Just for your information, Councilman Luna, the director, Harry Bloom, did have a walkthrough with the ad hoc committee on this, and that adds a 10% cushion in there, so it will definitely cover. And they're looking at the engineering to really try and save more money on it, but they know right now that's what the hard numbers would be. And what this does is it takes care of the chromium issue for 3/4 of the city, with just those 2 wells being covered.
Right.
And it improves the water on the west side.
Yes. And thank you for the explanation and the information, because I think the public needs to hear this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on this item?
No, sir.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7, Councilmember Friend.
Yeah, I'm curious as to why annexation is in the consent calendar. Isn't this normally something that's brought up as a resolution instead of a consent calendar issue? There's not going to be any public input to this if it's on the consent calendar.
That's correct. We can, the staff, the city, I should say, does have the authority to place the CFDs, in the consent calendar of the agenda, but
It's a CFD as opposed to a regular annexation into the city.
I know, I understand that.
yeah, and we felt kind of that this council was getting used to seeing these on a pretty regular basis, so we thought we'd just speed up the process that way. But if you would like all CFD annexations on under resolutions, or we can do that too.
I'm just expressing the fact that I never seen them on the consent.
This is the first one. Good catch.
There's been a couple of them, haven't there?
that's correct. The past, this is probably the third meeting, Councilmember Friend, that we've included the CFDs.
Well, that's the first one I read, I guess.
Oh.
Thank you. That was all I had.
Would you like me to describe the CFD?
No, I understand it. I just was, if we're going to see them on the consent calendar from now on, then we'll know where they're coming from. That's all.
Are there any public comments on this item?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve item 7.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 8, Councilmember Friend.
No, it was 9.
Okay, so I would like to move to approve item number 8. Because I pulled that one.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to item number 9.
My curiosity is, what happened to the fence?
It was about 30 years old. It was rotten, and the windstorm took it out.
So why isn't this covered under the windstorm? Why isn't it going to FEMA to fix this?
Well, we're going to track the costs, but as you know, FEMA is a reimbursement process. So we have to pay to fix things and then submit it like an insurance claim at some date in the future that is still to be determined. So we're tracking all the storm costs. To date, we have about $36,000 in staff time. We have about $35,000 in emergency tree crews that had to come in, and then we have the fence. And you're actually going to see another fence next meeting that came in last week.
Okay, as long as this is going to be covered under the FEMA.
I can't promise that.
Well, we're going to
But
request it to be covered.
We will file the claim for it.
Councilmember Luna?
Thank you.
Yes, also, this is one sound wall out of how many?
2. We only have 2 wooden sound walls.
Oh, only 2?
Only 2, and they both are about the same age, 20 to 30 years, and they're both rotten, and they're both failing. So we got called out to the other one last week. We inspected it. It's got to be replaced too. So there'll be an item on the April 3rd agenda to do that.
So you'll be replacing both?
That is the intention, yes.
Okay. And this is going to cover both?
This is going to cover one of them,
One of them.
just Meridian Street.
So you'll be coming back for the
Sunny Slope.
replacement of the
That
other?
is correct.
Okay. I just had a concern about the sound walls, because I know I'm supposed to be in that committee, and I'd like to see another meeting coming up, just because
Yes,
I want
ma'am.
to see how they're doing.
No problem.
Okay.
All right.
Mike, I know we just added another one along South Side, and it looks, Lad Ranch. It looks really nice, but I'm just wondering, are we wrapping that cost of replacing that in 20 or 25 years into the CFD
The
amount?
CFDs do have the cost of the sound walls in them, yes.
Sweet. Perfect.
But that one's a concrete one
With wooden slats.
with wooden slats.
Yeah, it's got concrete pillars, but then it's,
This one's all wood.
okay. Thank you.
The
Are
one
there
on
any,
Meridian was built in 1991. I know for a fact.
26 years.
Yeah.
thanks, Mike. No public comments on this one?
No,
Okay,
sir.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to public input. Guess I have to read this, huh? Members of the public may address the city council on any matter within the city council's jurisdiction that is not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Speaker cards are available in the foyer and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. State law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item which is not on the agenda.
I have one speaker card, Mr. Mayor, and it is from Marty Richmond.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Marty Richmond from Hollister. For whatever it's worth, my redwood fence didn't fare any better than your sound wall. It's in the same condition. The difference is I can't ask FEMA to reimburse me. Anyway, I came before you because I am concerned that the Board of Supervisors recently sent a letter to the legislature in Sacramento backing up Senate Bill number 1, which is an enormous transportation tax increase of approximately $6 billion. And it's advertised as a local road repair increase. The problem is very little of the money is coming back for a local road repair. 63 cents on the dollar is going to be skimmed off by the state before they send back any money. And out of what comes back, it is not evenly distributed between us and the county based on population. The county is supposed to get $3 million a year. We're only going to get $1 million a year, even though we've got 62% of the population. This tax increase includes a 12-cent per gallon extra sales tax a lift of the excise tax on gasoline to 17.3 cents a gallon, a lift, a 20-cent a gallon tax on diesel fuel, a lift on the diesel fuel excise tax of 3.5%, $38 a car increase in registration fee, a $100 to $165 charge for electric cars driving on the road, and so on and so forth. It goes on forever. And once they get this $6 billion, the state takes 63 cents of every dollar and keeps it at the state. And they send you back at 37 cents. They said, there's your money, go fix your local roads. Well, it's worse than that, because the way they got it broken out is that we are only going to get $1 million, 1.2 to be exact. That $1 million every year is going to cost us $7 million. We're going to send $7 million to Sacramento, and we're going to get back $1 million. The county is going to send a lot less than we are, and they're getting back $3 million, which means I can assure you they're not going to give us any of that road money. I bet on it, because they're broker than we are for road fixing, and they've been complaining about it every day. So I am very concerned. I hope you will talk to the Board of Supervisors and try to get an arrangement that if this does go through, they will guarantee us some of that money that we're not going to get. They're $3 million, and we only get $1 million. And also, I oppose this because it's a waste of money. We've sent enough money to Sacramento to fix the roads. They just used it for something else. They have diverted those funds. That's the problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moving to the city manager's report.
I have nothing to report this time.
Perfect.
At this.
Moving on to public hearings, item 41.
That was this is before the council to clean up an error that was an inconsistency between the ordinance and the resolution, where the resolution said 18, we had 21, so we made that change, and then we also changed that the 75 to 50. So these are ordinance changes to amend those two items to make it consistent with what the council had requested and what we did include in the resolution. So we're getting them meshed.
Okay.
So I'm asking for a waive first reading and the introduction, and bring it back for adoption at the next meeting.
Okay, are there any questions from the council? Okay, we can open it up to public comments.
I have one speaker. I have one speaker, Mr. Mayor, Salvador Palma.
Good evening, Salvatore Palma with Hollister Holistics, 1802 Shelton Drive. Here this evening, really not to speak necessarily to the two exact edits in the ordinance moving forward, but more so to address the live scout and background situation. I'm here to urge the council and the staff to continue to process and conditionally approve applications while the city is awaiting the issuance of its new ORI number. As you all know, on January 1st, 2018, the cannabis industry in California will transition to a dual licensing structure, whereas all cannabis operators must be licensed at both the local and the state levels. Those that are operational prior to January 1st of 2018 may continue to operate while they're processing their state permits. Those that are not operational prior to must wait until they are issued their state permits before beginning operations. And the state is actually going to be giving priority to those that are already operational. So those that aren't operational must wait until they issue the state permit, and they're at the back of the line waiting for those that are operational to get their state permits. I just went through a very similar process in the city of Greenfield, and I can tell you that it took roughly 14 months for them to receive their ORI number. The first 6 months of that was a back and forth with the DOJ, figuring out the exact language that should be on the application. Once that application and the language was figured out and deemed appropriate by the DOJ, it still took them another 8 months to actually issue the ORI number. This timeline would obviously make it impossible for anybody in the city of Hollister to be operational by January 1st, 2018, and thus would be, for all intents and purposes, sitting on our hands while we wait for the state to process the applications for all those that are in operations before they get down the line to those that aren't. So again, I strongly urge the City Council and the staff to use its current ORI number on an interim basis or even contract out to a third-party private security company to run background on the applicants and conditionally rather, approve applications based upon those findings. The operators would then be able to proceed at risk and contingent upon the live scan results coming back clean in a goal to be operational by the 1st of 2018. And we could also happily indemnify the city against any liability should the live scan results down the road come back and for whatever reason the license has to be revoked by the city because of those findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Councilmember Friend?
Being that this is not the subject that was on the agenda, and I've heard this issue before when I was down at the police station. What do we do now to do that? How can we make some arrangement to where we can continue on like this? But I know it's not on the agenda, so it's difficult to...
Well, the ordinance is on the agenda, and I think that I can real briefly just say this, is we're working with PD, the police department right now, to go through another sort of interim background check investigation. We'll probably come back to the council with some amended rules and regulations and more or less sort of mimic exactly what Sal said, is that we'll continue processing things going through a different background method, and then when we get our new RI number, we can continue with that process. But we won't hold any of the process or any of the applications up because of that at this point. Okay. Do you have anything to add, Chief?
No, that's exactly what we talked about. Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything now. We already are taking care of the program.
Yeah, we became aware of it last week as Dave was struggling trying to get the ORI stuff. So we'll move forward.
Are there any more public comments?
No, sir.
All right, let's close the public hearing. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Is there a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's move on to item 42.
Okay, I apologize in advance for a long-winded staff report, but I feel it's important to kind of describe what we're bringing back to you. The City Council reviewed proposed amendments to Chapter 16 Performance Standards, which is Section 17.16.100, which is the noise section of the Hollister Municipal Code, at the March 6th, 2017 meeting. Staff recommended 3 changes: adding restrictions for construction activities on holidays, adding an exemption for self-help construction and construction activities of residents, and adding a requirement for a 7-day notification of construction maintenance or landscaping noise that would be exempt and occur after 6 p.m. on weekdays and Saturdays or Sundays. Staff was directed to revise the ordinance to add the term commercial for construction activities, to restrict construction activities on Sundays, and to revisit the standards for landscaping and grounds maintenance. Section 17.100A is proposed to be revised to apply only to commercial construction activities in residential areas and adds a prohibition for construction on Sundays and federal holidays. The prohibition of construction activities on Sundays and holidays is consistent with many of the noise mitigation measures incorporated into many of the environmental documents that have been adopted by the City of Hollister to reduce the impacts of short-term noise construction. Additionally, additional mitigation measures have included the following: staging equipment areas that farthest practical distance from nearby noise-sensitive land uses, maintenance and equipping of construction equipment with noise reduction mufflers, and require that radios are not audible at adjacent residences. Prohibit idling of 5 minutes or more of construction equipment when it is not in use, and notification of residents in the area prior to the initiation of construction, similar to subdivision grading. The existing code, which is entitled Construction, Landscape Maintenance, Ground Maintenance, indicates commercial construction activities on and contiguous to residential properties shall be limited to the hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday. Staff proposes the text amendment to that code. Commercial construction will strike out landscape maintenance and grounds maintenance, and the code will read, commercial construction activities on and contiguous to residential property shall be limited to the hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, and shall be prohibited on Sundays and federally recognized holidays. Changes to Section 17.100B are proposed to clarify that the standards apply to commercial landscape and grounds maintenance activities, and to distinguish between routine maintenance that is typically for a period of one half hour or less, and landscape activities that could occur for more than 1 hour. Routine maintenance would be allowed on Sundays and federal holidays with the proposed amendment. Commercial landscaping that would be associated with installing landscape features or a major remodel would not be allowed on Sundays and federal holidays, similar to recommended residential construction noise standards. From Section 17.100B, the existing verbiage indicates landscaping and grounds maintenance. Landscaping and grounds maintenance activities with noise-generating equipment such as gas lawnmowers, leaf blowers, chippers, and similar equipment shall be limited within and near residential properties to the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays. Staff proposes that commercial landscaping and grounds maintenance be described as routine commercial landscaping and grounds maintenance activities for a duration of 1/2 hour or less, with noise-generating equipment such as gas lawnmowers, leaf blowers, chippers, and similar equipment shall be limited within and near residential properties to the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, and federally recognized holidays. Commercial landscaping activities with noise-generating equipment used for a duration of 1 hour or more shall be limited within and near residential properties to the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, and shall be prohibited on Sundays and recognized holidays. Staff is proposing to add subsection C, which would clarify that the noise performance standards would not apply to occupants of residences in residential areas of the city. The proposed change would add, this section shall not apply to works of construction, landscaping, or grounds maintenance by self-help residential units or the occupants of a residential property conducting the works of construction, landscaping, or grounds maintenance for personal, non-commercial use. Sorry for the long-winded staff report.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your work on this. One thing I'd like to throw out there for thought is looking at subsection B that was just read. And because we don't currently explicitly allow this type of work on Sundays and on holidays, I'd like to say that we would prohibit it in the new language on Sundays and federally recognized holidays. That's my opinion. I don't think it's really going on right now, and I just don't want to say that it can and then start to see leaf blowers out there at 8 o'clock every Sunday morning. Just something to look at. And what I would probably want to put forward is just adding the words prohibited on, and that would be between before Sundays and federally recognized holidays in the last sentence of subsection B. Are there any questions or comments?
It does say prohibited.
This is only on Sunday.
This would only be on prohibiting it on Sundays and federally recognized holidays, which would line up with what we're doing with the commercial construction portion of the code. Any questions or anything?
No, no problem.
Okay.
It's just the way I read it, it does say that. Shall be prohibited on Sundays and federally recognized holidays.
Oh, did this get...
On B.
Oh, I'm sorry. It must be... It's A. Sorry, I meant A. So where it says Monday through Friday and at 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays and federally recognized holidays. So putting prohibited before Sundays and federally recognized holidays in A.
Okay.
Sorry, apologize. Let's open up to public comment. Okay, let's close public hearing. Is there any other questions for staff?
No. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 1137.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on. Let's see here. Moving on to item 51.
Good evening, council members. Resolution 2017-58 is a resolution to interpret and clarify the business license taxes for short-term businesses. On March 6th, you, as a city council, reviewed some recommendations from staff to resolve some of the discrepancies that have occurred between the taxes charged to business activities and the language in Chapter 5 of the Hollister Municipal Code, which regulates business licenses and regulations. We were directed to return with the resolution, and the resolution is before you. I'd just like to point out that there is one small change in the resolution that was brought to my attention after we brought this matter to you, and that is that we don't have in item 5 of the resolution for vendors at one-day festivals or festivals of 2 or more days that take cash deposits for orders to be delivered in the future, that we don't have the authority to charge the tax for retailers like Avon and Tupperware. There's a section in the Revenue and Taxation Code. So we've incorporated that into the resolution just to be clarified.
Don't most of the Avon dealers have yearly license? It's an existing business that does a one-day event, right?
I think there's an exception in the code for them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think under their free trade, I don't think any of them have business licenses. Is that correct? Or wherever Brett is. I may be wrong. I shouldn't say they don't have any, like, negatively. They don't have to get one.
Okay, well, that's fine. I was thinking they would be lumped into the same as an existing business that comes to the flea market or the farmer's market.
But it was brought to my attention when they are at the farmer's market that they don't have to get a business license because they are exempt under this section of the Revenue and Taxation Code.
What is that kind of business called then?
I don't know. I can get back to you on what it's called.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Strong lobbyist.
Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, Mary, clarification for nonprofits. Once they get their exempt business license annually, that would cover them for the whole year in any event that they participate. They don't have to get an additional business license, right?
That would apply to a nonprofit and a business. Say, for instance, if you have a business license at the farmer's market and then you wanted to conduct business at the street festival, that business license would cover you for the year for both activities.
Right, and after the Board of Equalization came by to visit us, and I was present at the time that some nonprofits were going in during the rally and mentioning to the members of the Board of Equalization that they were nonprofit and they were never required
to actually have a certificate of resale tax, which they do. And I'm just wondering, in the business license application for the nonprofits, I recently was able to view one, and I don't think that's one requirement that the city maybe does not have. It should have.
We could
And
look
I
into
think
that.
if in the list of the checklists, I'm just wondering if that Board of Equalization resale tax certificate should be included, because after all, nonprofits do report to the Board of Equalization and should be reporting. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, let's open up the public hearing.
I have no speakers, sir.
Let's close the public hearing. Are there any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve? Resolution 51.1.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 52.
Yes, the City Council approved Resolution 2017-13 on January 21st, authorizing staff to release requests for proposal for the use of $700,000 of the city's low-moderate income housing asset fund. The request for proposal was released with some objectives in it. One of the objectives was to assure that the city can meet its spending mandates in the Health and Safety Code by 2019. One of those targets is to be sure that our fund balance is below $1 million. And the other is that we spend at least 30% of the funds on extremely low-income housing that is for rentals. The staff report explains that based on the 2016 median income limits from the Department of Housing and Community Development, that for a family of four, an extremely low-income household would earn $24,350 or less. We received two proposals. One was from CHISPA in partnership with the Community Services Development Corporation. They requested the use of $700,000 to assist with the development of 48 senior rental apartments with a manager unit. The proposal would have 10 extremely low-income rentals, 32 very low-income rentals, and 6 low-income rentals. They also included in their proposals, they met one of the objectives in the request for proposal. They would, in preparing their application, have neighborhood meetings, and then also after they built the housing, they would engage the neighborhood in community activities that would be held in a community room at the apartment complex. Pacific West Properties also submitted a proposal just to use $200,000 for the approved 80-unit Vista del Oro condominium project on 4th Street. The proposal is for 8 extremely low-income rentals, 60 very low-income rentals, and 11 low-income rentals. The proposal did not clearly identify how they had engaged in the community neighborhood during their application process. It could have happened, but it wasn't articulated in the proposal. And they didn't identify any way that they would engage the residents or the neighborhood in community activities once the development is completed. Staff is recommending that the City Council direct staff to begin loan agreements with CHISPA because they clearly met the objectives in the request for proposal. Pacific West did not. They proposed to use just $200,000, which wouldn't meet our objective of making sure we meet our spending limits by 2019. Staff recommends that you direct us to return with loan agreements with CHISPA and the Community Services Development Corporation. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mary.
The $700,000, is that coming back from the RDA funding?
That is what from our housing fund. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Councilmember Luna, any questions?
No questions, just... Mary, thank you for that letter that you attached regarding the proposal and the community engagement that we have worked on very hard to bring people together to inform them what is going on and the possibilities of this type of housing that is in dire need for the city of Hollister to possibly qualify for other grants. So thank you for that.
Mary, thank you for including the rubric that kind of breaks down which boxes were checked by which proposal. That really helps. And also, thank you to both applicants. It's nice to have competing projects for somebody trying to serve this housing sector. So it's exciting. Let's open up the public hearing.
Marty Richmond.
Good evening again, Marty Richmond from Hollister. It seems like a very good proposal for not that much money, actually. But one question I would have as staff, if you could put it through you to staff, would be whether or not these proposals included discussion of ongoing maintenance. Nothing lasts forever. You build a low-income housing, and there has to be some kind of a consideration of ongoing maintenance issues, and that can add up to a lot of money. We've had people in here before, with issues concerning funding of our existing low-income apartments to make sure that, and I think that's a very important aspect of low-income housing, to make sure that whoever does it addresses that, if not this time around, at least in future proposals. That should be one of the boxes that are checked. I'm sorry, I did not have the full agenda packet, so I don't know if that was on there. Thank you for your time.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
These are, go ahead and close the public hearing.
Everyone wants to speak. All right, let's close the public hearing. Any other questions?
I just have a question on Marty's point. These are apartment buildings, senior apartment buildings that are
For
on this
Chispa,
proposal.
that would be senior apartments. The Pacific West Vista del Oro would be for all ages.
So who's going to operate the apartments? Is the city going to operate it? Or it's gonna be-
No, it would be Chispa in partnership with the Community Services Development Corporation.
So the maintenance that he's talking about would be on the CSPA to operate
And
the apartments.
in the proposal, they submitted a funding plan, and Chispa, they've also submitted as part of their proposals their capacity to operate an affordable housing project. And I just would like to comment, we did approve a rehabilitation loan last year for two, it was Rancho Park and Rustic Gardens. And one of the issues with that, where they were looking for assistance with funding, is that it was that the building material that was used, some of the siding that was done, that was at the time thought to be state-of-the-art, had defects with it. And so their profit margins are very narrow. And so I think there was an issue with the stairs also. I think so. These were, I think, maintenance issues that were abnormal, that they were asking funding assistance for.
Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, I just want to add something that I recently, and Councilmember Carson Clower was also on that tour of the housing, senior housing in Salinas, and Chispa actually is the builder there. I was amazed at how clean that place was, and it seems like they had their own departments doing whatever needed to keep the upkeep of the apartments. And I think I'm probably looking at the same thing, and I know that I would have no doubt in that.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve, what is it, 52.1? Resolution 52.1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item 53.
Yes, I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Good evening. This item is requesting approval of 3 resolutions. Resolution number 2017-60 and 61 are 2 resolutions of the City Council authorizing the mayor to execute an annexation agreement with Mr. Frank Borelli and Mr. Fernando Gonzalez for the approximately 37.28 acres of land located north of Buena Vista Road between Carnovo Drive to the west and Miller Road to the east, as you can see in the front on the screen. No development is being considered at this time. However, at its regular meeting of March 7, 2016, the City Council adopted a resolution approving a mitigated negative declaration and ordinance number 1126, pre-zoning the 2 subject parcels to medium-density residential, which allows 8 to 12 dwelling units per acre into the City of Hollister as a prerequisite for annexation. The annexation agreement has been signed by the applicants, Mr. Fernando Gonzalez and Frank Borelli. Resolution number 2017-62, also before you, is a resolution requesting LAFCO to initiate proceedings for the annexation of territory. Pending approval of these resolutions by the City Council tonight, staff will then forward the application to LAFCO for their review and process of the annexation of territory. With this, staff recommends that the City Council review the resolutions and adopt Resolution 2017-60 and 61, authorizing the execution of the annexation agreements, and adopt Resolution 2017-62, requesting LAFCO to initiate proceedings for the annexation of territory. Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
These are medium density lots.
That's correct.
So we're looking at a total about 104.
8 to 12 dwelling units per acre at 30 acres, 37 acres. Yeah, about 120 to 160 or so dwelling units max. Mm-hmm. Yes.
300? We're closer to 300.
400.
For both, that's for both of the
for
both
both
lots together?
For both, and yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
if you just use 40 acres times 8, that's 320.
Correct.
But it's hard to net that.
Councilmember Luna, any questions or comments?
Just a comment about, I'm always thinking about the parks in the area, recreation for the residents in the area. So it does include a park, right?
In this case, Councilmember Luna, it's just for the pre-zone. There's no development being considered at this time. However, our zoning code does require that for each unit that's being proposed, there would be at least 500 square feet for open space. So then if there's, for example, 300 units that are being proposed, once the application does come in pending your pre-zone and LAFCO approval, then in that case it would be 500 square feet per each unit that's being proposed that would be required for open space in the area. And so that's one thing to consider. And another thing is that the city is currently working on its parks master plan, and so that would be also considered for if there is a park that's going to be considered for that area. We would make sure that upon the review of the tentative map, once that's proposed and submitted to the city, that it meets those requirements.
Just for information for the public, the process of LAFCO, if it approved here, goes to LAFCO.
That's correct.
And what is the time frame there?
It depends. If at this point, because they already have their CEQA document in order, with your approval tonight of the resolution to direct staff to submit to LAFCO, then we can submit to LAFCO pending that we have all the documents ready. And then at that point, our experience is that it takes about 2 months for LAFCO to get everything ready, and they also require a public hearing for the annexation of territory, and also from there, then it also goes to the Board of Equalization for final submittal to transfer the property from the county to the city.
So you're actually looking at another 2 months, 3 months?
Approximately, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Abraham, is anything happening at LAFCO right now?
At LAFCO, regarding
Annexations.
the annexations?
Still not yet? Nothing's happening yet?
Yeah, not to my knowledge right now. The most recent information that I've gotten is that the property tax agreement that was adopted back in 2011 is still active right now until a new one is negotiated between the city and the county. As you know, for a few months there was no property tax exchange agreement. It was removed, but then as of a couple of months, if I'm not mistaken, it was enacted back, and just with the caveat that the city and the county work to modify that.
And that's going to go before the Superior Court on April 24th if we don't settle.
Okay. Let's open up the public hearing.
Doug Ledebear.
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Doug Ledebor, representing KDH Group and the property owners, the applicants here. Just wanted to thank staff for their report and their ongoing work on this project. As Mr. Prado summarized in his presentation, the city previously approved the pre-zoning and the negative declaration approximately a year ago. This is just a continuation of that process. So I'm just here to request your approval of the resolutions tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And also to Mrs. Luna's comment, should we get through this process and eventually come forward with plans, we fully intend on meeting with representatives of the city and the community for input on our plans. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's it. All right, let's close the public hearing. Any other questions or comments from the council?
Nope.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Do we approve the resolutions, all the three at the same time, or each one separately?
You
all
may,
three
if
at
you
the
like.
same time? All right.
Yes.
Adopt resolution 2017-60, 2017-61, 2017-62. My motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, moving to reports from the city council members regarding committees. Councilmember Luna.
We had a meeting on the area agency on aging, and we got two different agendas with two different dates. So some people showed up on one day, and I showed up on the second day. And so I had my agenda set to 60.
Don't look at me.
So unfortunately, didn't attend that one, but that was one of my committees.
Okay. Councilmember Friend?
I have no reports.
Okay. I attended the Integrated Waste Management Committee, which was between the county and the city, and Councilmember Friend was there, as well as the consultant who's in charge of the trash contract. So that was a nice meeting, and it looks like both San Juan Bautista and the County of San Benito are going to be going back to their board and council and talking about possibly working to see if we can get some sort of deal set up with Recology before going to an RFP. So that's all that came out of that one. The second meeting was animal control, and Councilmember Friend was also there, and that was with the county, and that went pretty well. One of the main things that came out of there was that as I'm sure everybody knows, that the city and the county to work on their communication. And one of the items that came up was possibly setting forward a liaison from the city and a liaison from the county to meet regularly to go over all of our contracts that we have and what's going to be happening that includes the opposite entity. So that was good. I think there was a lot of clarification that came out of that meeting on how the animal control services work and the difference between calls in the city and the county. And then the third meeting that Councilman Friend and I were both at was the Hollister Elementary School District Joint Use Ad Hoc Committee. So Councilman Friend he's been working hard. And that was good.
I didn't want to report out. I knew you wanted to.
Yeah, thank you. That went well. We're working on draft language for a master joint use agreement for several school facilities that we use as parks when they're not in school. So that's going to take a few more months, but I think we're getting somewhere. Okay, so moving on to informational reports from the City Council. Councilmember Luna.
Yes, and I'm sorry I wasn't here on Monday, the March the 6th. I was honored in receiving the 30th Assembly District Woman of the Year recognition, and I was the guest of Assemblywoman Ana Caballero at the state capitol that day. So that's what I wanted to report. And upcoming informational report. On March the 9th, I was in Sacramento at the California Endowment Center. I was asked to be a panelist for the Future of California Elections Conference, and that was very interesting. There was over like 400 people there from throughout the state of California, and I happened to be a panelist with MALDEF. It's the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund. So that was very interesting. Secretary of State was there, Alex Padilla, had a lot of good information for many, or how the elections will be coming on for the next year. Today I had the honor of being on the women's panel at Gavilan College this morning, and it was very interesting to be there with Crystal Lamonto and Laura Perry, who sits on the board of Gavilan College. That's my report.
Councilmember Friend?
Yeah, I do have a couple things. One is another report that I forgot. And then we did have a rally committee meeting, their first one, with the promoter and the everybody that was involved. And it was a very good meeting, even though not a lot's been changed. A lot of things have to make sure we're all in the right frame of mind to get this all completed and done. And we started pretty early this year, so we should be doing all right. And they told us about a special guest that they're going to have there, and I don't know if they're ready for that to be out, but it's going to be, according to them, very popular. Somebody we all know and well and love, and they're going to be there and riding their motorcycle. I don't want to give it away, but it's a CHP motorcycle that they're riding. So, the other thing I wanted to mention real quickly, in the month of April 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, the American Legion Riders of the American Legion of California will be having their yearly convention at our Veterans Memorial Building. It's quite a deal to have it here. There'll be about 200 members that are from all over the state, so it's going to be pretty exciting. Might be a little noisy, but it'll be pretty exciting. So I just wanted, and the chief has volunteered to be our welcoming speaker, so we'll put him in the right frame of mind right off the get-go. So that's it.
Nice. Just a couple items. I want to say congratulations to Councilmember Luna. That's a very exciting and deserving honor. Also, to everybody who was inducted into the Baylor Hall of Fame over the weekend, congratulations. I think there's maybe like 7 or 8 people. And then just the last thing, went to the She Is Beautiful run over in Santa Cruz yesterday morning. That was a really neat event. Actually, a lot of people from Hollister did it, so it was pretty cool. But that's it. Moving on to City Manager Aver.
Thank you. Just wanted to report that we had a pretty good turnout on Wednesday night. The building department and our development services department put on a kind of an informational piece for business owners in town who have been approached regarding ADA accessibility and how their businesses comply or don't comply. So that went well. And then I heard rumblings about this last week. I didn't check into it much over the weekend. I probably should have. Mary asked me to mention it tonight, that the president is considering completely eliminating the community development block grant program throughout the country, and as well as Tiger and some of the other things for the arts, as well as making some huge cuts in HUD's home program. And with CDBG and home, although the city of Hollister doesn't necessarily rely on those programs because we're not an entitlement city, we have applied for those funds in the past, and we've utilized them to do acquisition and rehab and provide first-time homebuyer programs and many other things as it relates to targeted income group folks. So if people out there are concerned about those programs and making sure that they continue to exist, then they need to get in contact with their representatives as quickly as possible. Okay.
I'd just like to add that Meals on Wheels is also included in that.
City Attorney Sullivan?
Nothing, Mayor.
Chief of Police Westrick?
Nothing to revert.
City Clerk Graves?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
I'd like to bring up something under new business.
Can we do it?
All right, I'd
Want
like
to go back to your comments?
come back to my comments.
Okay. Councilmember Friend?
I just was going to ask staff if it's something we want to, and the rest of the council, if it's something we want to look at. I've noticed that several cities, San Francisco was on the news today, San Jose has done it, whether we need to tackle the upcoming January 2018 legalization of recreational marijuana, and whether the city wants to take a stand on that, or whether we're just going to let the state dictate how that's going to be. And the concern that I have is hopefully by then we will have some established medical marijuana dispensaries, and I'm curious as to whether those are automatically going to turn into combinations of that, or if we don't set an ordinance, we're going to have legalized recreational marijuana being sold in our city. And I'm not sure if that's something the city wants to do. I just wanted to ask the rest of the council if that's something we want the staff to come up with an ordinance, or do we want to move on that?
Well, right now the law is not set up that medicinal dispensaries will become recreational. Recreational will be purchased elsewhere or grown yourself.
Well, in that case, even so, there are going to be people asking for permits to do that in town, and we don't have.
Well, right now we don't have a permit to do that, and we also don't have a permit to cultivate for beyond the self cultivation.
So we don't
there was some discussion by the council during the process of the medicinal to allow for medicinal cultivation to expand, but I believe the consensus or the discussion was very brief, not to have dispensaries at this time.
Well, I'm just curious, do we need to take that step and make it official? That there's an ordinance standing that says we're not going to allow that, or we are going to allow that,
whatever your wish. I mean, if you want to have.
Would you like it agendized?
I believe it's something we should discuss, and then make a recommendation to the staff which way we want to go. So I'd like to see that on the agenda, just the discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
That sounds good. All right, there's no items for H, I, J, and K. Do I have
for adjournment?
Perfect. Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.